Today's session. My name is Georgina. I'm the Highland Community Waste Partnership coordinator. So I've had the joy and the privilege of coordinating this project over the past 3 years. In this time, we've all sort of done a lot of work and a lot of learning around both how to reduce waste and consumption in the Highlands and also how to work together. And as the project comes to the end, to an end at the end of March, we were really keen to make sure that everything we've learned about all this stuff is shared with anyone else who's interested in working in this space. And just make sure that that's available to people as much as possible as part of the legacy of the project. We are going to pull together a legacy report. There will be a legacy website for the project that will kind of compile case studies and signpost the future work and sort of pull together as much information as possible about what we've done and what we've learned and resources as well. As part of this legacy work, we also are running this series of webinars this week, which is giving people an opportunity to hear directly from the partners about some of the work they've done, the impact it's had, what we've learned, etc. And so today's webinar is focused on food waste and composting, and we have a selection of partners who kind of led on some of this work with us today to talk about what they've done. So I'm going to kick off the session by providing a very quick overview introduction to the partnership, just to set the scene for anyone who doesn't know, and then I'll hand over to the team to take us through their presentations. Also, if you do have any questions, we've reserved sort of half an hour at the end of the session, roughly, for a Q&A. We're really keen to hear from folk, to hear your questions and answer them, and just have a chat about anything that any of what we're talking about today raises. Please save those questions for the end. You can also drop them in the chat, as things progress if you prefer, and we'll make sure to pick those up. If we don't get to anything at the end, we'll have an email address at the end of the slides so that you can get in touch, and we're more than happy to continue any conversations offline as well. So just a little bit of background about the partnership. The Highland Community Waste Partnership is a project that brought together 8 community groups across the Scottish Highlands with the overall aim of reducing waste and building a movement for more sustainable consumption. Each of these groups are groups that sort of exist in their own right. They had been working in this space previously to the project, and sort of the whole premise for this work was to bring these groups together, share some of the ideas and learning, and generally join forces to kind of achieve a bigger impact than we could all individually, and also a wider reach across the Highland region. So the community groups that make up the partnership are sort of evenly spread around the Highlands, kind of from Fort William up to Thurso, from Broadford on Skye all the way across to the Black Isle. We really have tried to achieve a good coverage of the region. The project is coordinated by Keep Scotland Beautiful, so we're Scotland's national charity for the environment. That's where I sit. I have a small team in Keep Scotland Beautiful as well, who supported with coordination, but also a delivery officer who ran projects in our own right as well. I suppose the other thing to say about the partnership is that we kind of focus on 3 key areas of waste. So food waste and composting is one of the things that we focus on, but we also focus on promoting sharing and repairing. And there was another strand around reducing single-use items and packaging. So we have separate webinars about those over the coming days if you're interested in hearing more about that. So just to give a little overview of the work that we did on food waste and composting, and then I'll hand over to the team. So a big part of the work that we did was just delivering a program of events and workshops. That's across those 3 themes that I mentioned before. This is kind of about giving people the opportunity and the skills to do things differently when it comes to reducing waste and changing the way sort of that they consume and use resources. So under the food waste theme, we delivered a total of 91 food waste reduction workshops, reaching over 1,000 people. And we also delivered 48 composting workshops, reaching over 300 people. And like I say, the team will talk about these a bit more in today's session. In addition to the program of events and workshops, we also, sort of another area of work for the partnership was looking at delivering more bespoke, localized projects. These were more about kind of changing the changing the options that were available to people, providing them with sort of more sustainable options when it came to how they use resources. So under the food waste and composting theme, we had a number of projects that were around preventing food waste that we'll hear about today. So the Zero Waste Food Challenge, a food waste recycling project in Inverness, some work around community larders and food sharing, and also some work with hospitality businesses around reducing food waste. On the composting side, we did a lot of work to sort of promote composting, both in households by supporting people in households to compost their food waste, but also looking at sort of bigger projects, more community-based projects for composting food waste locally, sort of as a group, as a community, involving businesses, etc. So just some impact stats. So we engaged around 200 businesses with the hospitality food waste kit. We gave out 234 composters, saving 72 tons of food waste from landfill, and Leslie will talk about that in a lot more detail. And we also set up 5 different sort of local composting projects as well. So that's a little overview of what we're covering today. This is kind of today's program, which was also on the webinar slide, so I won't dwell on that too much, and I will hand over to our first speaker, who is Leslie Hawkins from Lochaber Environmental Group, who's going to tell us a bit about food waste prevention workshops. Leslie, over to you.
Hi, lovely to meet you all, and thanks for coming along today. I'm here I will be bobbing in and out of the presentation as we go along, but here I'm coming to talk to you about the food waste workshops that we delivered. Sorry, I'm just getting to grips with the system behind the scenes here. So food waste reduction workshops. I think the first thing that we did between us all is Keep Scotland Beautiful organised Zero Waste Scotland to come and deliver some of their Love Food Hate Waste training sessions for us, and they've allowed us to use their resources. So one of the things that was important to us was to look at the food waste hierarchy to make sure that actually we reduced the amount of food that was wasted before we then started to look at the composting, etc. So what we were able to do is, using the Love Food Hate Waste training and the resources, we were able to meld those resources and develop sessions that we were able to deliver across the partnership, but within our own areas. So we were able to help develop sessions to work with local delivery partners to deliver in communities across the areas, which allowed for hands-on learning. And as I say, especially in Lochaber, delivery right across Lochaber. You know, if you look at the Lochaber area, I was really lucky that we've been able to deliver in Fort William, but also across at Glengarry, down at Drimnin, in Kilhowan, also Arisaig, etc. So really trying to get out across the area to deliver the sessions. You can see there, as Georgina had said earlier, the number of sessions that have been delivered. So what we've got there is how many sessions in year 1. The numbers in brackets are what Lochaber Environmental Group have delivered. So I can see as well when we're recording and looking at the data we've got, we record both centrally but also against each partner, so we've all got information about what we've been out delivering. So from there, you can see that as year one, although we didn't deliver too many, we had quite a good number of attendees. But what's really interesting is as we go through year 2 and 3, not only do we deliver more sessions, but actually we start to get more people attending the sessions as well. And that's one of the bits of learning, to realise that sometimes it takes people a little bit of time to be aware of your project and to be aware of what you're delivering, and then come and join in for these. It was really good to share across the partners as well. So, for example, we were able to take feedback from Velocity and Ullapool and Lochbroom about some really good presenters, so that when we were also then able to access those presenters and then deliver similar sessions. Some of the learning that we had from delivering the food waste workshops is it was when we were able to develop them, it was really, really important for us to make sure that people could have fun at them, to make sure they were interactive. So we weren't just presenting the materials as presentations like this, but we were actually then using those as a basis for information around the sessions that we were able to deliver, making them as hands-on as possible, and using local partners. So, for example, not just local deliverers, but we used Hannah from Gut Feelings. We've got Lucy Cook from The Wild Cook, Claire Houlihan, Andy Woodward, and Liz McMasters were able to come and deliver sessions for us on a really wide variety of subjects. So we were able to use things like fermentation, foraging, different preservation techniques, anything from dehydration to chutney making or pickling. It's also really good for us to be able to work in partnership with other groups. So, for example, Kilmallie Community Fridge and Garden, along with the Highlands and Islands Climate Hub, we were able to put on, one example this year was to put on an apple day. So we can have a very specific focus on apples in the local area, but then also making chutney, making vinegars, and making other foods, other preserves from apples. Just a little bit of feedback on there, some really good practical input. I enjoyed the group discussions and advice that came from that. We obviously do take feedback where we can from the sessions, and the graph at the top is to try and get people to give some indication to us about how they feel compared to before the course, to see whether we've been able to make a difference to people, to people's views on both the subject but also on climate change. So going forward from that, I'm handing over to Laura, who's going to talk to you about the work that then went on to create the Zero Waste Food Challenge.
Hi there, everyone. So I'm Laura, and I work for Transition Black Isle as part of the Highland Community Waste Partnership. And through the work on food waste and composting, we were lucky enough to come together with other partners in the partnership to look at developing a zero food waste challenge. Now, the challenge, we didn't start from scratch. We worked with a previous community group based in Muirvord called Moo Food, who had developed a challenge, a food waste challenge, a kitchen challenge through COVID. So we had some resources to start us off with, but as a team, we all came together to think about how we could restructure that resource and make it a little bit more locally based, but also thinking about introducing hands-on learning, introducing some local resources and connecting people to local action. So we followed the WRAP food waste journey, which has 6 key stages, and that provided a structured approach to reducing food waste at the household level. And it helped us create the structure and the content of the Zero Waste Food Challenge. It focuses on the 6 crucial steps of planning, shopping, storing, preparing, consuming, and then composting. The challenge was designed to be accessible in multiple ways to engage a diverse audience. Participants could engage through online resources, allowing individuals to follow the challenge from home at their own pace. They could attend in-person workshops hosted in different locations across the Black Isle, and we could access a community group workshop guide, which enables other organisations and groups to deliver the challenge independently. In terms of workshops, Transition Black Isle delivered 3 series of workshops. The first one was in Fortrose, and we gained learning from that, which reshaped our second series, which was held in Muir of Ord. And from January to March this year, we supported the community group CJT projects in Contin to deliver their own Zero Waste Food Challenge workshops. The content group followed the Zero Waste Food Challenge structure using the community group workshop guide with support from project officers for planning, promotion and workshop delivery. We also supported them with some funding to cover their hall hire and facilitator fees, ensuring it was accessible for the group and saving them to recreate the wheel and also learn from our mistakes. So we developed PDF guides, which is a comprehensive set of guides for each stage of the food waste journey, including an introduction guide explaining the environmental impact of food waste and the benefits of reducing it, with a guide on how to measure your food waste. Additional resources were used to support participants throughout the challenge. For instance, we developed a Measure Your Food Waste worksheet, which helped participants track and analyse their food waste over time. We utilised the Love Food, Hate Waste food diary from Zero Waste Scotland, which encouraged participants to observe patterns and make informed choices. And to make the challenge more engaging and accessible, we created some short videos, and they were bite-sized introductions to each of the topics, which contained handy hints and practical tips and calls to action. Workshop participants felt that they were particularly effective when they were busy and they didn't have time to read the full guides because they could watch the short video before the workshop. The guided workshops were delivered across the 3 rounds, and each round was refined based on the participant feedback to improve engagement and accessibility. The first in Fortrose from April to July in 2024 had sessions every 2 weeks, and we learned that the sessions were far too far apart. And we also changed a bit of the location to Muir of Orchard for 2 of the sessions, which became a little bit confusing for people and they may not have been able to reach that area. So we refined round 2 and held it in Muir of Ord from October to November 2024 with weekly sessions. Learning helped us to support CJT projects to deliver round 3 in Contin. So we wanted to develop a lot of community engagement and local integration. So our Zero Waste Food Challenge workshops were enriched by working with local facilitators, including Fugal King from the Highland Good Food Partnership. She's a local food sustainability expert. Konya Tak, who's the Mu Food Grow Box coordinator and Highland Joy Garden designer, whose expertise include urban garden designing and food growing. We had Nikki from Strath for Artisan Bread, who's a local successful business owner passionate about reducing food waste. And Debbie, who's the author and business owner of the Highland Home Cook, who added her knowledge in home cooking and waste reduction techniques. At each workshop, we promoted relevant local initiatives, and the workshops introduced participants to community-led solutions such as the local food markets and sharing sheds. Packaging-free shopping opportunities were also developed and introduced, and resources such as our local Larder directory highlighting regional food suppliers were also provided. The Zero Waste Food Challenge also provided a platform to introduce Transition Blackale's wider sustainability efforts and gain a reach to more people. We introduced other Highland Community Waste Partnership strands of work, including the Choose to Reuse campaign promoting waste-free shopping and highlighting local initiatives such as Rosemarkie Beach Cafe's Refill Station and Keep Cup Initiative. Also for Trose Library and Number 19 Cafe's participation in the National Cup Recycling Scheme. There were also practical takeaways for participants at each workshop. We provided participants with useful tools to support their zero waste journey, such as magnetic shopping planners and spaghetti measures for better meal planning, keep cups for reducing single-use packaging, bridge thermometers and bag clips to improve food storage, and natural vegetable scrubbers for cooking with leftover recipe books. Our last workshop, which was composting, we worked with the Blackale Men's Shed, who custom built compost bins for attendees and came along and showed people how to build them. So just a little bit on the feedback. So the workshops successfully engaged a wide range of participants, fostering meaningful discussions around food waste reduction. The combination of theoretical knowledge and practical application reinforced our aim to support long-term behaviour change. Participants reported improved meal planning, reducing food waste, and having increased awareness of sustainable food habits and making healthier choices. 99 people attended one or more of the Zero Waste Food Challenge workshops of 16. 173 workshop sessions were booked and attended, and 131 feedback responses were submitted. A range, we did attract mostly the 50 to 65-year-olds to the 26 to 49-year-old age groups, with roughly about 30% with the 26 to 29-year age group and 41 between the 50 and 65 age group. But we did receive some participants who were under 16 who came along with their parents, which was really good to see, and also the over 65 age group there too. Our ratings for our workshops were absolutely excellent. From a scale of 1 poor to 5 excellent, over 108 participants out of 128 rated us 5 as excellent. We had 17 as 4 and only 3 as 3. So we know we were doing the right thing. We also asked questions around how people felt after the workshops. And out of 123 responses, over 99 people said they were feeling more inspired to take action. We had 73 people saying they were felt part of a community of like-minded people, and we had 50 people saying they were ready to make a change to their behaviour, habits and lifestyle. On top of asking some of the more traditional questions in our feedback, we also asked people around reduction of food waste and reduction of household bill costs, food costs. A resounding 66% of people said that their food waste would reduce. 66% said their household food costs would reduce. And 83% said that they would be making healthier food choices. So we had some challenges, but we also had some solutions implemented around those. First off, our first round, we used Eventbrite for registration, which led to some confusion because they were individually listed. So some people didn't realise they were part of a full challenge until they came along to the workshop. So we switched over to using Ticket Tailor, which was much more comprehensive. And in round 2, we had many more people attending more than one workshop across the series. It also led to a higher number of participants booking multiple sessions. However, attending 6 workshops is still really challenging for people. So having the resources behind the workshops was really, really key, because people were able to pick up where they left off, or join in with some, pick up the learning from additional workshops through downloading the PDFs and watching the videos and receiving the notes from us as facilitators. One of our participants said he only joined the programme for the composting workshop, which was excellent, and he's following the guidelines provided. The outline notes for the whole programme were comprehensive and easily understandable and provided lots of ideas that would be relatively easy to implement. The completeness of the steps should enable many people to both to avoid wasting food, to save money and to save energy. Lessons learned: that participants joined workshops as they were motivated by financial savings and health benefits rather than wider environmental concerns, and framing the challenge around these themes helped us to attract a broader audience, allowing us to reach a more diverse audience and those not necessarily engaged in climate action. The flexibility of online materials were key to ensuring continued engagement with the challenge outside of the workshops. The Zero Waste Food Challenge supports Scotland's Circular Economy Act route map by promoting sustainable consumption behaviours around household food waste and consumption. The resources serve as a replicable model for other community organisations looking to deliver educational programmes on food waste reduction and composting. An initiative also provided an avenue for individuals to take action on climate change by offering practical, achievable steps to contribute positively to within their households and their communities. And we heard from our participants that it was a really enjoyable evenings, meeting really like-minded people to think about how to reduce waste in a fun and tasty way. Another participant said, come along and have fun, meet new people, learn new skills and help save the planet. So thank you for listening. I'm just going to pass over now to Joanne who's going to talk about the Crown Hill Food Waste Project with Velocity. Thank you.
You're muted there, Joanne.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're on mute. What's just delayed? Hi. So yeah, I'm from KSB. I'm the stakeholder engagement officer. Velocity couldn't make it today, so we just wanted to say what they had done in the past. The Crown Hill. For some reason, I can't move this slide now. One second. Oh, for some reason I can't navigate the slide. Laura, can you just click it on, please?
I'm no longer in control, Joanne.
I
can take it back now.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Great. So for the introduction, the background to this was Velocity wanted to work with the Highland Council because they realised that there was a waste audit done in the bins in the Highlands, and a third of the waste in the refuse bins in the Highlands was actually food waste. So obviously there was a lot of food waste still going in there. Now we appreciate that not all areas of the Highlands do have the curbside recycling for food waste through the council. However, there was an area that did have it, and it was still quite low participation, so they wanted to look into that. So they worked with Highland Council to encourage the householders to use the free curbside food waste recycling service, or to use their home compost like their own composting facility if they had it. It did come to light with the study that some people just wanted to use their own home composter that they had in the back garden, and that was fine. But if it was this case, then Velocity still encouraged them that they could use both services if they wanted. So they could put their fruit and veg in their home composter in the back garden, but they could also use put the bones and the cooked food and everything in the curbside collection in the little caddies. So a lot of people weren't aware that they could use both at the same time. They used the Crown Hill district in Inverness as a case study just because it was quite a low participation area, but it was quite a concentrated area, so they thought for engagement it would be quite a good one to use. Oh, can someone click that? That's great. So methodology, their key activities, they wanted to baseline monitor it first to find out what was going on. So basically they did a participation study with caddies. They literally went along the streets and they counted each caddy in each household to see how many had been presented. They did that in April and May 2023. Then they did a food waste and composting survey. It was an electronic survey that they did. They sent that out to people in May 2023 to get an idea of their habits, what the barriers were to using the service, if there was any way then, if they did use it, how it could be improved. And then they did some engagement events. So you can see from this picture here, they had like a stand on one of the streets because that area was actually doing like a big jumble trail. So it was basically a car boot sale, but it was like the whole area that was doing it outside their houses. And it was a great opportunity for the team for Velocity and the Highland Council to go along and speak to everybody individually. So door knocking campaign then commenced in July 2023. They decided to actually chat every single door and ask them if they used the service, if they didn't use the service, what they'd like to do, how they could be encouraged to use it, and just had a friendly chat with them to see if there's anything that they could do to help. And then they did follow-up monitoring again. Obviously, they just recounted the caddies again that had been presented on the curbside to see if they'd made any change in participation, and that was in September, October 2023. Someone just click that over for me, please. Right, so key learnings for the impact and recommendations. There was a slight increase because the original participation study was 28.9%, and then with 142 caddies, and then when they tested it again, they went round and checked again, it was 156 caddies, so it went from 28.9 to 31.7, and they could basically say that that was the only intervention that was done there, so they were hoping that it was applicable, that their intervention had raised that slightly with the awareness. The main thing they found through the survey and speaking to everybody was that the food waste sign-up option with the Highland Council website was really it was quite difficult to navigate. You could ask for new caddies if you'd lost yours or they'd been stolen or damaged, but it wasn't easy just to ask for the service. So if you'd moved into the area and you just wanted the service, there wasn't an option for that. So they wanted them to change that and make it a bit clearer for them, because you know yourselves, nobody wants to phone up the council and spend like half an hour on hold or that. So the majority of people asking for caddies would do it on the internet as opposed to phoning. And they also wanted the form responses to go to the waste awareness team rather than the operations team. On the customer relations management service that they've got, the system they had, it went straight to the ops team so that they could get the guys to go out and actually deliver the caddies. However, it meant that the awareness team weren't aware of what was happening. So if somebody needed a wee bit more help to get them up and running, wanted some advice or that was a lost opportunity. So they wanted it to go to them, one, so that they could see if the numbers were increasing and participation was getting better, but also so that they could have that engagement with the householders as well and really support them in that service. Just click on again, please. Brilliant. So I'm going to hand you over to Leslie again, and she is going to talk about the plantation community ladder.
So that, Joanne. Yes,
Thank you.
just a little bit of information to go on the plantation community ladder. So Lochaber Environmental Group are one of the partners in the Fort William Community Action Group. And it was during that Community Action Group that we identified a couple of priority actions for the group, and those were adopted in February 2023. The two actions that were relevant to this were 4B1, to reduce the financial pressures on households by developing a partnership highlighting the connections between consumption, waste and the increased cost of living. Support measures to address climate change and to support / develop opportunities for innovative net zero solutions. And the second one was 4B2, which was to support individuals to reduce consumption, reduce food waste and signpost mending or sharing and repairing options. So to tackle this, we worked in partnership with Voluntary Action Lochaber and High Life Highland, and we agreed on several actions. We looked specifically at the plantation community area because it is one of the areas of Scottish that's on the Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation, and by talking to their local community action group, they identified that there were other sharing larders, community larders around the area, but not one that they could get to easily. So, as I say, we worked with Voluntary Action Lochaber and High Life Highland because they have they've got a centre within the plantation area. We identified the desire for a community food larder for the residents of the plantation, as well as previously discussed food waste reduction sessions, and we also garnered support for the larder through the Highland and Island Climate Hub. There were several issues that we wanted to address for the plantation area, and that included bringing people together to improve social cohesion. We wanted to help reduce social isolation whilst supporting individuals to reduce consumption and reducing the food waste. We thought that that would help reduce financial pressures and support measures to address climate change. We did get support from the organiser of another local community fridge and garden because we felt that their experience of supporting and setting up and running a new an existing larder would support the areas within the plantation. So at the moment, the project has grown to 8 volunteers who are supporting this, and it's able to open for 1 to 2 hours for 5 days a week from the plantation hub. 3 volunteers are young adults with additional support needs for whom the volunteering counts towards their Saltaire Awards and Adult Achievement Awards. And since the launch at the end of December 2024, the project has also redistributed 540 kilograms of food into the plantation, with 4 of the 147 customer visits. It's significantly improved the footfall into the hub and has helped promote the hub as available for different community activities. So whilst also promoting and identifying the need for reducing food waste, it's also bringing that hub back into the sort of centre of community activities. So we feel that although it's only been running for since last August, we feel that it's already achieving many of its objectives and is growing, continues to grow. So I think that's the plantation powder. So over to Brenna for business engagement.
Lovely. Thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone. My name is Brenna. I work for the Highland Good Food Partnership, one of the project officers. And one of my parts on the wider waste partnership was working on this business engagement around hospitality food waste. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what the approach was for each year of the project, and then speak to some of the challenges in engaging hospitality around food waste reduction, and then talk about some of the results and who we're able to work with. I don't know who's doing the slides, but it's the anonymous person. You can do the next. Yeah, amazing. Thank you. That's you, Les. Thanks. Yes, so I guess full disclosure, I wasn't on board for the first year of the project, so I can't speak too much to what was done during that time. But the previous project officer was able to engage in over 100 businesses, and I think it was probably a theme for the wider partnership, but just trying to get the message out there and get the name out there of what it was that we were trying to do. And then quickly realized that, we weren't the only one working in this space of hospitality food waste reduction. And we were able to work with Jerry from Zero Waste Scotland, who I think I saw come on the call, to collaborate on different events. And that was one up in the Cairngorms with Visit Inverness, Loch Ness, some in-person events, an in-person event for businesses. And I think it was Jerry gave a talk about food waste reduction. And then the second year I came on board in August 2023. So really tried to do a bit more of in-person work and pick up on some of the connections that were made in the first year. Jerry and I worked quite closely together, and I was able to deliver on their 1-month food waste challenge that Zero Waste Scotland developed, which is a really, really great resource, 4-week challenge that takes businesses through looking at their food waste data and measuring it, and then analyzing it, and being able to develop a bit of an action plan. So I engaged with a further 100 businesses on that, and really tried to work within the partnership and tried to take advantage of some of the people that were placed in their local communities, like Leslie and Laura and Amy. Because the Highland Good Food Partnership is Highland-wide, it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer to me to try to take advantage of those connections and work within everyone's community. So yeah, we were able to attend some networking events, a Sustainable Sky event. We went to around Lochaber and 80 Tables event in that second year. And those in-person events were really important. I think those are the ones that more connections came out of and were able to actually follow up with and get people on board. So yeah, through the food waste challenge, the Zero Waste Food Waste, 1-month food waste challenge, we were able to provide 5 businesses with a set of industrial scales to start their measuring, which was great. So that was through Zero Waste Scotland. And Les and I also made a bit of headway and collaborated on the in-vessel composting group, common interest group, which was about sustainable waste management. But we had this idea that we wanted to start at a point of reduction, as Leslie said, within the waste hierarchy, and try to work with some businesses to start at reducing and then move on to composting. And then in the third year, tried to do a bit more tailored engagement. And that kind of came around at a time that the Waste Partnership was launching multiple sustainability initiatives. So things around packaging and reusable cups as well. And we ended up collaborating on a in-person event in the Lochaber Chamber of Commerce, which was about a group of offerings for businesses, which I think worked really, really well. We were able to get a lot of interest from that. We were able to connect with one of the businesses that we're working with on looking at their data, which was Stramash Outdoor Nursery, who are already doing a bit of composting, but we're interested in looking at their reduction. And yeah, so I'll go on to the next slide, please, Liz. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about some of the challenges about kind of working in this space and some of the things that came up for me anyways. So probably a common theme working anywhere in the Highlands, but the geography definitely made things difficult, especially being like, yeah, a Highland-wide mandate. I'm just one person working part-time remotely. So it's difficult to get those in-person connections, which is why I found so much value in those in-person events. And the people that we were actually able to get measuring data back from were the folks that I were able to meet in person. So I think that made a big difference. There's also the rural exemption for businesses around waste. So they're not required, businesses aren't required to separate out their food waste currently. So that's adding on another extra step when you're coming in and trying to talk to them around this. It's like, you're trying to get them, convincing them that they should do it, and also adding on something else that's not already part of their regular programming. So that was a little bit of a barrier to get over. Also introducing new initiatives during peak season, obviously a very tourist dependent industry. It kind of leaves a very short window for engagement. You maybe have like a 3-month window where people are actually like have a moment to breathe and are looking at doing new things and making adjustments and whatnot. And then if you do get folks that are keen to do some measuring during that time, you're not getting the whole picture as they would when they're super busy. So that was a little bit of a challenge, as well as high staff turnover. And, there could be one person that's like really, really keen to take it up. And if that person leaves, then they're taking the initiative and the whole measuring with them, unfortunately. So those were just some of the barriers that I ran into. But yes, I'll go to the next slide, please. Thanks so much. Wasn't all bad, though, of course. So we worked with a couple of businesses that were able to send their data back and sort of work closely on recommendations. So one of them was Stramash Outdoor Nurseries. They have a couple locations, but this one was in Fort William, and that came out of our in-person event in Lochaber, which was amazing. So they are only recording their plate waste. So the 1 month challenge breaks into 3 different categories of waste. So there's spoilage waste, preparation waste, and plate waste. So scrapings that comes off, from a customer. So it's a little bit of a unique circumstance. Obviously, it's not a strictly hospitality business, the nursery, but they were only recording plate waste because they bring in outside caterers. So it was a little bit tricky. And they were recording quite a lot of waste in their first month. It was I believe the total it was estimating was £900 a year that it would cost them if they sort of continued at that rate of waste. So we made some small adjustments, and they worked with the kids to ask their preferences for what they liked, and started with smaller portion sizes and less soup being ordered. Soup seems to be a massive waste. I don't know. This seems to go right down the drain at the end of the day. Maybe, but the kids aren't a fan of soup, I suppose. But so we did those small tweaks, and unfortunately, it seemed that they were still getting a lot of plate waste back from the kids. And I think a lot of that came with the fact that they were bringing in outside caterers. So they don't have control over the food themselves. They're not doing the prep themselves. So that's quite a tricky circumstance. But I think it's really, really good that we did this and worked with them, and we'll continue hopefully to work with them, because it just shows that it kind of needs to be an ongoing process. It can't just be a one-time measuring and then fix it and done. So there's solutions that kind of need to come as time goes on. So one of the things we suggested is getting a freezer or fridge, which obviously would be a bit more of an investment, but they're not able to store any leftovers at the moment, unfortunately. So that's obviously a big area where waste is coming from. And that picture on the right there is the kids writing in their waste after their lunch. So that was a nice photo to include. And then the second one was working with the Old Forge Community Pub, which actually came out of the Vessel composting group that Les and I were working on, which is amazing. So I think that also illustrates that partnership working component, as because Les is working on them with the composting side of things, and then we're doing a bit of food waste reduction. So they obviously really work hand in hand. So we're just getting some of the data back from the Old Forge now, which is a bit of a shame with the partnership ending, but they are also struggling a little bit with their food waste in January alone, and this is the slow season that they're open 3 days a week. They're food waste was estimated to cost them about over $2,000 a year if they were sort of to continue at that rate. So that's a massive number for a small pub on a rural peninsula. So yeah, there's some adjustments to be made there, and it's quite a tricky one. You know, if they have more customers, a lot of their waste is coming from spoilage, so there'll be less spoilage. But I think looking at their data, breaking it down to the three categories has been really helpful. You can see that their plate waste is quite low, but their spoilage waste is really high. So it means, I guess, they're doing something right on the service side of things. Their portion sizes are right, the food is tasty, people are enjoying it. Then we look at the spoilage side of things and we're thinking, okay, why is that the way it is? And a lot has to do with the way they're getting their food on the ferry. Some things are getting to them with only a couple days left of freshness, or being able to serve it. So yeah, we're looking into this with them, but that was just some of the data we've gotten back from them. So keen to keep going with them and seeing what we can do. But it definitely presents some unique challenges working remotely as they do. But yeah, I think that's me. Forget who's next. I'm so sorry. Leslie, back to you.
I'm just gonna jump in as we're transitioning from the food waste side of things to the composting side of things. I'm just gonna ask you, team, to try and keep your presentation snappy because we are running quite behind on time. So just a wee reminder. And that's me back out and over to you, Leslie.
Well, home composting workshops. As I said earlier, composting is the last aspect of food waste reduction, and obviously we encourage people to reduce the food that they're wasting first and foremost. But there is, and there always will be, some things which then need composting. So it's a lot better to compost food waste than it is to put it in your residual waste bins. So what we were able to do was run composting workshops. I'm being very lucky with 3 excellent deliverers who have supported me in locations across Lochaber. So I've had composting workshops near Fort William, down in West Arden Merton Community Garden, and then at Shieldfoot near Harrickle, as well as managing, I think we did 2 online composting sessions as well, which were really helpful for people who can't necessarily attend to participate in those workshops. You can see from here, between the partnership, we've run quite a lot of different composting courses, and the interest in those composting courses has increased as we've gone through the years. And it's been attended by people who maybe are already composting, people who are keen to start composting, and you can see we've got some sort of feedback there from somebody. They said they'd been composting before the workshop and getting a compost bin, but the workshop's actually given them confidence in knowing what's right and wrong. And what was really good about this person who gave the feedback is they were then able to go and cascade that learning with the people within their household. So that was really interesting from that point of view. Oh, I think I went back rather than forward. Sorry. Oh no, I didn't. Sorry. Yeah, so home composting workshops. Plus there's some information which isn't unfortunately on the slide, but we did get people attending from all age ranges. So I think maybe some of my perceptions is it might be older people attending some of those, but we've had people attending from all age ranges, which has been really positive, and genders. So we've had a real good cross section of attendees coming along. Been asked to hurry up, so I'm trying to rush a little bit. So we've also, as Lochaber Environmental Group, we've identified that home composting is a good solution. It is a way to be able to provide a good solution to food waste for individuals. So you can see on this, hopefully you can see on the map, we've been able to provide composting bins for individuals right across Lochaber. The different colours, this map will hopefully be as part of the legacy that will be available for people. So I colour coded those to represent different years and whether it's a single or multiple bins in a postcode area. So these are bins that have been provided within each year within different postcodes. Hot off the press, we're now up to 247 bins that have gone out over the 3 years. I'd hoped I could say 250 by today, but I've not managed that. We did survey everyone who has either got a bin from us, and from their responses, we had 50 responses to that sort of survey from people who had had bins from us over the 3 years. We asked them information about how much they composted in summer on average and how much they composted a week in winter on average. So from that, we have been able to calculate an average, and we know it's an average, but of 2.54 kilograms of food waste composted per bin per week. So if I extrapolated that with the 247 bins, if an average of 2.54 kilograms is composted each week, that will be 32.6 tons of food waste being composted or saved from going into the residual waste bins per year. So we think that's a really positive note and a really good reason to be encouraging people to home compost. So I'm going to go on to community composting with Brenna.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Liz. Yeah, so on the community composting side, that was another bit of our work. The Highland Good Food Partnership had done some work with again Zero Waste Scotland to develop the highlandcompost.scot website, which is an amazing resource for anyone looking to set up their own community composting. It goes through a bit of a decision-making process and regulations and all that. But one thing I definitely noticed when I came onto the project was there wasn't a whole lot of Highland examples or really Scotland examples around community composting. So we're really keen to try to get something going and just kind of understand what the barriers are and if it works, if it works, I suppose, if people are interested. But yes, this was the first kind of pilot project we did. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. This is the first pilot project we did. So Les and I kind of worked on this one together. This was at the Kilmallie Community Fridge and Garden, which Les has done some work with them before. And we knew that they had the garden beds and they had the community fridge, and we kind of thought they'd be a good site for community composting. So we spoke with Carol Ann and she was keen. So then me and Les kind of worked together and decided what bin might be best for them. We landed on this hot bin, which is the one on the left, which is like a styrofoam wheelie bin, essentially. It's 200 liters. And then we had just a cold compost bin, 900 liters, that was made by Workshop Studios in Lochaber as well. So we did a lot of promotion. We had sort of posters everywhere. We did an open day for people to come and sign up as well. And that picture there is sort of the launch day, I suppose. We provided people with 3.5 liter caddies to take home, as well as a bit of a membership guide, what it means to be part of a community composting project, and then just some guidance on what goes into the bin. So for this project, we're only accepting organic waste, so fruit and veg scraps, tea bags, coffee grinds, so no animal byproducts, no eggshells, meat, bones, oil, dairy, anything like that. And that's just more, I guess it's for a couple of reasons. One is that we weren't really sure the temperature that these hot bins could actually get to, and the regulations around animal byproducts do require that they get to a certain temperature and stay above a certain temperature. So we were just kind of testing the waters with this, and also just the registration process with SEPA is a bit easier when you don't include animal byproducts. So as a pilot, trying things out for the first time, we just decided to go with that option. So that's the paragraph 12 exemption for small scale composting. Quite an easy form to fill out, just a couple of pages, and then we got it back in a couple of days, I think it was. So we ended up getting 9 people to sign up, and they were away composting. So it was a bit of learning with the hot bin. We weren't adding enough sort of dry material in the beginning, so we had to ask folks to add sort of a pile of wood chips every time they dropped off their caddies, and we asked people to weigh their caddies just before they dropped them off, so we kind of had an accurate number of what was being composted. And I believe since April, that composter, the hot bin, has been emptied 2 times now into the cold composter, where it will just break down a bit more. But we have been able to compost 599 kilos since last April. I wish it was 600. It's just much better round number, but 599. So that's been amazing, and the response from folks has been really great. And yeah, just once we kind of got around some of the learnings around it, and people were just away they went, and able to drop off and just keep it going. So that's been really fantastic. And then next slide, please. Thank you. This was a collaborative project with Velocity. So Velocity had some ties with Homegrown Gardens, which is just in Inverness there. And Claire, the project officer, used a lot of the templates that we had for the Kamali project to do this one. We did it in very much the same way. The only difference is, as this one, Les had found out about these Jura composters, which are raised and insulated, and they're lockable. So that was a big point for the homegrown folks, because it was in a really visible area. There's a big Tesco just beside the gardens. They wanted it to be something that was raised, lockable, so not just anyone can throw anything in there. So that was a really well attended event. I think by the end we had about 15 signups for the community composting project, and then we also combined that with a bit of a workshop on composting. So I think we should be getting some data back from them before the end of the project, but it's really interesting to see that kind of like two different settings. This one is a really public area, and they were wanting it to be visible. They want people to ask questions about the composting and what's going on, and sort of generate some interest. So yeah, that was sort of the second project that came out of the community composting. Next slide. I don't know if there's another one. Oh yeah, there is. Sorry. So that was just some of the learnings that came out of doing a couple of these projects. I think Katrina's going to speak next about hers, but for me, I think the demystifying of the regulations around community composting. There obviously are SEPA regulations, and if you're composting animal byproducts, there's Animal Plant and Health Agency regulations. But being able to just talk people through them, and say, the smaller composting doesn't require a lot of lengthy regulations that you have to go through. That was a really big point. The starting small thing, I would really recommend. I think it just takes a little while to figure it out and to get people in the rhythm of it. So that was a really big learning. The shared knowledge, and that was shared knowledge between people that signed up, but also between ourselves in the partnership. I think having a pilot project launched and being able to then replicate it in other places around the Highlands was really helpful. And I think it shows the power of having like one project started up. I think as soon as people see that it's possible and we can spread the word about it, they're more likely to try something themselves. Yeah. I think I'm passing it on to Katrina now. Yeah.
Thanks, Brenna. So yeah, I'll just give you a little bit of information about the Ullapool Community Composting Project. So it's very similar to what Brenna has and Leslie set up with Kamali. We basically just replicated a very similar scheme. And we went for the same compost bins that were used at the Homegrown project. So we've got the Jura rotating tumbler, and then one of the hot bins as well. So we're in the very early stages of the project at the moment, because we just launched in February. We've got 19 participants signed up so far. I think only about 5 people are actually actively dropping off their food waste so far, but hopefully, like I say, it's just the early stages at the moment, so we're hoping that as people get a bit more comfortable with things and get into the swing of it, then we will have some more people getting involved. And we have 2 locations. So the main challenge for us setting up this project was actually finding a suitable spot around Ullapool that we could actually put some composting bins in. There isn't really a community growing project or anything like that in Ullapool. There are some allotments, however, they've got access issues, and they didn't really think it would be suitable to have lots of extra people dropping off their food waste. So we contacted different organisations, different businesses in the area that had a bit of land, just to ask if they would mind. And very kindly, the Lochbroom House care home said that they've got a big garden space that's used by the residents, but there's also quite a bit of space that isn't being used, and they would love to support a community composting project. So that's the pictures that you can see. That's the first location at the care home that we set up. And then we have just in the past couple of weeks successfully secured another location, and that is in the grounds of the village hall. So there were some concerns there because they hold weddings and other events and often use the outdoor space, and they were a bit worried about having some compost bins set up, but we have managed to iron out all those problems, and they're now happy because it's one of the black hot bins that's going in there, so it's completely sealed, and because we're only doing fruit and veg scraps as well, there's not going to be any issues with rodents or anything like that being attracted. So that's where we are currently at, and the feedback so far has been really, really good. Everyone's been really excited. We don't have any council food waste pickup in Ullapool, so people were really excited to have the opportunity to drop off their food waste and for it to be turned into compost. And yeah, quite a few people don't have access to a garden or an outdoor space that they can compost themselves. So this has been a great resource for them. And I will now pass you on to Leslie, who's going to talk about the large scale composting solutions.
Hi, yeah, nice to be back again. So yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about large scale composting solutions. So I'm sure you're all aware, not all circumstances are the same. And across our Highland communities, there are many businesses or different community solutions that are needed for food waste. So I'm just going to very briefly talk you through some of the things that we have been doing. We did manage to, through the Waste Partnership, we were really lucky that we will manage to offer a rocket A700, which is I've forgotten the word for it, but it's an electrically controlled, much larger scaled composting unit. You can see that on the sort of top right hand side, the middle picture there. We had a number of organisations that showed interest when we offered this rocket up for relocation. Ardtornish were successful in that selection process, and we managed to get the rocket relocated down there, and then a refurbishment undertaken by Tidy Planet, who were the manufacturers. Because we are where we are, this did take a little bit longer than we had anticipated, both getting Tidy Planet up here and making the relocation, getting that in place. But it is now over in Ardtornish, and it was being used since last April. And to date, we've had over 800 kilograms of food waste being processed through the rocket. We've also relocated to, we just spoke earlier about the hot bins, but we've relocated to hot bins that we were made aware weren't being used anymore. Both of those went to local primary schools during the project. One of those primary schools has also been provided with a pair of bokashi bins to see how bokashi, that's fermenting of food waste, works alongside the hot bin. And I'm just going to read this because I got some information this morning through from Meg, who's on the parent council, who's responsible for linking up with that, and she was saying one of her sort of top tips is perseverance, and perseverance is the key, because after we'd put in place the hot bin and the bokashi, the school then had 100% change in staffing. So she's had to then be working back with the school to try and get the use of those back in place. They've now got a new breakfast club coming in place for 2 days a week. The facilitator for that breakfast club is now on board with that, so they will still be putting the breakfast food scraps into the bokashi to use that, and then that will be transferred after the bokashi is full in there. After 2 weeks, that will then be transferred into the hot bin to be part of that composting process as well. We've got 3 more recent pilots that are taking place. There are some images on the screen there. So we've got one of those is Craig Ducroft, and we're hoping there that they've got one of the larger Jura composters, and we're going to test the impact there of food waste being composted in that hot bin alongside some of the garden waste to see what the impact of the heat is on that, on killing seeds. The Green Fingers Community Garden, there's a picture on there, Chris and I putting their Jura together. You have to assemble them when they come. They're looking at composting organic food waste from the service users, because Green Fingers Community Garden is a community garden, but it's also there and supports a number of users, service users, all who have individual support needs, be they physical needs or learning needs. And we wanted to see how that would work with people with different abilities to be able to use that composter and to be able to log what's going into there. And then the last pilot that we have running at the moment is across in Noida, and I know Brenna had mentioned the work she's been doing with the old forge. We're actually also then composting that food waste that they're recorded in one of the larger Jura composters, an 800 on there. There is lots of learning that we've already got from the pilot, and we've got we're talking with them again about exploration into different composting and additional composting solutions for the whole of the Noida area. We haven't got time, as Georgina said, we are a little bit late in this, and we knew that we wanted to have an overview of different composting solutions. So if you are interested in more detail on the community composting side of things, Brenna, I and Joanne and Katrina on Thursday will be just doing in a little bit more detail about the community and the larger scale composting. So that's a skill share in conjunction with the Highlands and Islands Climate Hub this Thursday from 1:30 until 3 p.m. Little QR code, I hope, on your screens. So if you scan that, I'm sure that will take you to be able to book up for that event. So I think I'm over to Amy.
Thank you very much. I will whiz through and hopefully leave a few minutes at the end for some questions. So here on Skye, we our team took over in year 2, and we were initially trying to implement a really large scale compost system across the island, but mostly concentrating on cardboard. There's a lot of cardboard coming onto the island, and we were trying to figure out a way of keeping it here and using it as a resource. However, kind of understanding after a while that there's unique challenges in living in a rural area, including the size of the area and the costs involved, and the fact that not everybody has got a large amount of waste, we thought we would concentrate on smaller systems in different areas. So we did work with Dun Brewing and Cossack Growers, that's over in Glenelg. Dun Brewing is a small craft brewery. They have their deliveries coming in cardboard, and Cossack Growers is a small market kitchen. I say small to medium size, and they are already composting. So we linked the two of them up with a cardboard shredder, which we provided to Dun Brewing, so that Dun Brewing can use all of their cardboard waste, use it up and give it to Cossack Growers. So creating a lovely circular system where the cardboard is getting used within Glenelg, and it's going to the growing market garden, and therefore completely closing that loop. So that worked really well, and that's where we would like this to go, is to kind of replicate those very small circular systems. We also worked with the Growers Hub, which is here in Broadford. They have polytunnels and kind of an allotment style. So they are also incorporating the the shredded cardboard straight into their beds and into the compost systems that they have there. This has really helped with kind of balancing out where people were just using, particularly the Cossack growers, were only using their veg waste, and at the Growers Hub as well. So adding the cardboard has really helped with the improvement of their compost at the end. Let's move on the slide. Here's a picture of one of our workshops. We did hold a couple of workshops, and again, some were held in year one before we started, just on general composting. But this is in the hub here, and like we say, it's been used straight into the raised beds as a mulch, retaining the moisture, and it's really supporting kind of microsystems here on Skye, improving how the different places are making compost as well. Let's move on to the last slide. So it's worked much better for us here to concentrate on very small systems. It's quite overwhelming to try and tackle food waste and composting in such a large area. We now know that the council won't be doing any food waste collections here, so it's certainly something that's much more achievable, is to concentrate on small systems where you're connecting growers and businesses and maybe small community things. So that's where we would concentrate on, and to try and replicate kind of the work that the others have talked about with community composting, and just trying to work in these small scales. It's much lower cost, and you get a really good solution straight away by joining these people up, and you can obviously engage the community, and then scale this up. Once you get everything going, those people know what they're doing, and then they can pass that on to their neighbouring community. So that's how we've been tackling composting here. I'll pass you back to Georgina.
Amazing. A big thank you to the team for pulling all that together amidst a very busy time of wrapping the project up. I really appreciate that. I think, I hope you'll agree that that was, really informative and really inspiring. One of the things that comes through time and time again in this project is just the tremendous amount of work that has happened. Hopefully you found that helpful. All of this will be captured, as I said, in a series of case studies as part of our legacy report, which is sort of due to be published by the summer of 2025. So keep an eye out for that. It was on the screen a minute ago, but yeah, there's an email address. If you want to pop that back up, Joanne, so people can grab sort of the email address and website. You can get in touch if you want more information in the meantime, or visit our website for what's currently on there. I think it's time to maybe open up to questions if anyone has any questions. I'll kick off. There's one in the chat actually from Yarrold, who's asking, have you had any concerns or challenges with the ink and writing on some of the cardboard to be shredded? I guess that's for you, Amy.
As far as we know, there's been no issues at all. But yeah, we certainly haven't had any feedback so far from those that we've been working with, that there's been an issue.
Thanks, Amy. Were there any other questions from folk? You can just go ahead and raise your hands if you want to come in, or just drop something in the chat. See, someone's typing there. Okay. There doesn't seem to be anything else coming through. Oh, who's that? Hang on. Something came through from Andrew Kirkland. Back in 2020, domestic food waste collection in Inverness was quite low. I heard there was an update to the statistics. Has it increased? When I've spoken to neighbors, they seem unaware of the service or note they've never had a bin. I don't know, John, if you want to pick that up. We're kind of presenting that particular project on behalf of Velocity. So we weren't involved, but yeah, I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on that one, John.
About people not receiving bins when they've ordered them. Yeah, I know at the time, is that what was the question? Yeah, about them not getting their bins.
I think it's more just about just kind of the scale of domestic food waste collection and whether it's increased, and kind of noting that yeah, people seem to be unaware of the service or just have never received a bin. So just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I do know from discussions that we had last week with Highland Council, they are aware that because they've been given funding for the food waste, they are rapidly rolling it out to a lot of the areas. And they are aware that some people didn't receive bins or some people still want bins, and that they need a wee bit more feedback from the waste team. They did say last week that they have been doing quite a bit of recruiting. So they do have extra members of staff, and they want to then, as soon as the bins, they've got a really tight schedule for rolling out the food waste caddies. As soon as they're out, they want to then start going back to these areas and do a lot more engagement. They do appreciate that they haven't probably engaged as much as possible with them, just because it's such a tight turnaround. And they did say they were wanting to put more information on their websites and that as well. But also as well, I know when they're doing different areas, some areas that are waiting for it are wanting the information, but they're just releasing the information area by area. So once they are in your area, you will get the information. If you don't, then they do encourage people to go online and fill out a form or contact the waste awareness team for more information.
Cool. Thanks for that, Joanne.
Yep.
Okay, well, I don't see any more questions coming through. As I said, if something does come to you and you want to get in touch, please do. Yeah, I think we can draw this webinar to a close otherwise.
Brenna?
Wait, Brenna wants to come in.
Do you have a question,
I was
Brenna?
going to say that right at that moment. No, all I was going to say is I didn't mention that all the resources like poster templates and like member guides and like what goes in my bin, like everything, all templates to start up your own community composting project, hopefully will be made available on highlandcompost.scot for folks. So I just wanted to say that probably in the next little bit. So
thanks, Brenna. And yeah, that's an example of the kind of thing that we'll also be signposting to from the Legacy website. Yeah, do keep an eye out for that. Oh, a bit more typing happening now. Hang on. Oh, no. Okay, cool. Great. Well, like I say, do get in touch. Leslie.
I saw that, Andrew, you put a bit on how a tumbler is useful. Typically, compost fills quickly. You need second compost bin when a third with piles being swapped between them. We're finding with the tumblers, the tumblers that we've gone for, and there are others available, and these are pilots, so we're hoping to get learning from them. So, we'll put that caveat on. But the tumblers we've gone for have two sides. You aren't meant to fill them more than sort of halfway. So you put your compost bin in one half of that. And then every time you put compost in, you do tumble them. Once that's half full, that one's closed off, and then you would use the second side of that compost tumbler. Because they are insulated, the feedback we're getting is they do get up to temperature quite quickly. If people are adding some browns in there as well, the decomposition on those, even though we've been piloting them across winter, seems to be happening quite quickly. If I'm going to talk about the Neudart one, which we'll go into a bit more detail on Thursday, they only started using those, and it's a large one. They only started using that in December, and I think they've had, I think Ben said it was 2 or 3 lots of compost out of that already. And then that compost is nice, good formed compost, but then it does have to go and be matured for a period of time as well. So it does come out with the hot composters, out of the tumblers, and then it goes into a maturation stage as well. And the way that they use it is they actually mature and turn their compost quite regularly. So that's some of the feedback we've got about the tumblers. Again, they're metal, they're galvanized steel, and they're off the ground, so hopefully that will stop any worries about vermin, etc. as well. So I hope that answers that for you, Andrew.
I see Sorcha's also typing a question. Or no, it stopped. Oh, great. Okay, fab. Okay, well, after all that, we have managed to finish up with 5 minutes to spare. Thanks very much to everyone for attending. Thanks to the team for pulling this together again. Thanks for bearing with us through technical difficulties. Do please keep an eye out for our upcoming legacy report and website, and have a great afternoon. Thank you very much.